Hey everybody, and welcome to the first premiere debut episode of setns. I'm here with Pop. What's up, Pop?
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Nova?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you. We just pulled you up on the screen, and I'm kind of experimenting with all of my gadgets and gizmos that I have going on here. But yeah, it would be rad if we could do a quick levels check with everyone and say hi to everybody and kind of make sure that we're all dialed in and ready to go for the show. So, hi everyone joining us live. Welcome to Set in S. We can actually pull up and see who's here with us in the chat. So it looks like we have Captain Anglo, Holden's here, Inai Balazer. We saw some other people, Facade, Maddie. We have some folks joining us, and this will be persisted to YouTube when we're all done with this. So if folks want to watch afterwards, we'll make sure to share a link on the Sysdig Twitter, probably my Twitter as well. So Pop, how's life? How have things been with you on your end?
Busy, busy. Just, having fun, helping the company and doing pop podcasts.
So tell us more about the podcast.
So, I had this idea again, being all the things we're dealing with right now in this the pandemic. I guess it's trying to figure out a ways to like just stay attached to the community. So I really wanted to have a capability for talking to folks and really getting the behind the scenes, the real stories behind Kubernetes, DevOps, and also just overall thought leaders. Like this week, we just did uh, a wellness weekend. So talking about like common things you can do to address things like back pain, and neck strain, eye strain, those type of things. So I'm just enjoying talking to people.
Nice. So you started doing is it audio only or is it audio video?
It's audio and video. So we're on
Nice.
Simplecast, and I'll do that in the HackMDL in the setns live notes. I'll add the links, but it's basically we're on pretty much every podcasting mechanism possible, and also we're on YouTube as well. And by the way, I hate the proverbial we. It's just me and Rin Oliver. Shout out. Definitely has been helping a ton. She's my co-producer and she's amazing. So shout out
Nice.
to Rin.
Okay, so you have a new camera. I can tell. Do the finger again. That looked really awesome. Nice. Yeah. Okay. Uh, your camera looks awesome. What kind of camera did you get?
All right, so I think we talked about this vortex that I went in. Like you go look at all these YouTubers and they have all these fancy lights and all this other stuff, and really I should have just I asked you originally like what are you doing? She's like Sony camera and all that, and I just got the Sony A6600. I love it, and then I also have the just bought I had a mic before, a Shure mic. It's been cool. It's definitely upping the game. So the next couple of podcasts, I'll be using this, and I figured out you can actually output to Zoom, so I can do fun stuff like this from OBS,
Nice.
which I had no idea you can do. And so, I can sit here and I can let me talk to you guys about the podcast and talk about this week's guest was that here, or I can talk to you eventually later when we're talking about webinars. I can switch between here and then I can go back to this lovely mug that you see here.
Nice. So Duffy totally just joined and said, "Hey,
Oh, I know him.
hey
Hey,
Duffy,
Duff.
Duff, what's up, Duff? How you doing?" Duffy's a friend of Pop, old colleague of mine, friend of mine. Let's be honest, we're all friends here. But yeah, that's really rad that you're doing a podcast, and it sounds like you're really focusing on like connecting with people on the human side of things and just getting their story of what it's been like for them as this whole crazy Kubernetes container cloud native thing has kind of taken off.
The format's been basically a bio, and the bio leads into the tech hop topic and then topic of a fun topic. So with Duffy, for instance, we did just startups and cocktails. And it was a fun talk because we got his progression through his life of all the startups he was at and all the way to the amazing cocktails that we discussed. And we actually had an old fashioned together. So it was basically like, when you're at conferences or you're, meeting up with buds, it's kind of that conversation.
Yeah, that's really rad. And so for setns, I guess we got maybe 1 minute before Steven joins.
Steven Tarana, yep, from Booz Allen.
Yep, and I'm gonna cut off your face real quick. I'm gonna pull up the notes so we can talk to folks at home in case they want to follow
I love how
along.
abrupt that visual is. I'm gonna cut off your face, Pop.
I'm gonna cut off your face, Pop. I'm still trying to work on how to do all this. This is actually really hard for folks at home who are joining, trying to do a Zoom and a screen share and a video and get everything all dialed in with the audio levels and everything else. So it's gonna improve, but we're trying to figure it out. But anyway, cutting Pop's face off now. So if you're just now joining, we have this HackMD. It's on my Twitter page. I just tweeted it. And if somebody wants to drop a link in the... Actually, I can do this really quick. So here, and then we'll go right here, and I'll paste it. There it is in the chat. If there's anything you wanted to add, this is kind of what we're going to be talking about today as we go through this. And you'll be able to find links that we're talking about in here. And you can see, obviously, the first link here is special guest Steven Tarana from Booz Allen. And I think we'll maybe wait for him to join before we get into what you and him are up to, which I'm excited about for the updates you're about to share with us. Oh, and it looks like you're adding your podcast now.
I can't lose this guy. He keeps on following me everywhere.
Which guy, Steven or Duffy?
Both of them. Well, I Duffy, I want follow me. Steven just won't get away.
Well, this has been fun. I will talk to you all later.
Hi. Nice to meet you, Steven.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great.
Meet you too. So what are we doing here? We're talking about the awesome things Sysdig's up to and an amazing webinar that's happening next week.
Yeah, this is y'all's show. Take the floor.
Right, you are. So we're on the 30th. We're doing a top 5 pipeline considerations. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be a webinar. Here, let me share my screen a little bit. So you can see I'm updating, but you can see this is on our Sysdig.com company live webinars here. And here is the discussion we're doing. It's basically turnkey security for your pipelines. I mean, from start to finish. I'm not doing any justice here. Steven, you want to kind of talk through like the high level pitch here, like how people will really enjoy it. It's not really a pitch, just an amazing set of tools we're helping people use to secure their pipelines at every facet.
I would love to. So I work at a federal consulting firm. We do a lot of modern software delivery, a big piece of which is incorporating DevSecOps principles to incorporate security into every step of the software development lifecycle. And we got tired of starting from scratch every time. So as part of this webinar, we'll be showing our open source solution for how to hit the ground running and how to stop building your pipelines for each team individually and be able to create like tool agnostic pipeline templates you can share across your organization. And then as part of that, Sysdig plays a huge role, being able to do container image scanning, showing continuous runtime security. We've got some cool stuff in there for GitOps and automating rule changes. So I think Pop is going to hack one of my containers, and then we're going to show how to automate making it so that can never happen again. So I'm looking forward to it.
I really want to do some evil to your containers and your applications. It's just my life ambition, Steven.
When I think Pop, I think sketchy. So.
So tell me more about this hacking a container.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll use Steven. Go ahead, bud.
Sure. So the way I think about runtime container security is it's your safety blanket in case your pipeline fails. Yep. So as part of the pipeline, we're going to be doing application dependency scanning, static code analysis, unit testing, scanning the container image with Sysdig Secure, showing policies. After we deploy that application with Helm, we're going to do Google Lighthouse for accessibility compliance scanning and OAuth ZAP for penetration testing. But, security vulnerabilities still get through the pipeline. So POP is going to show that, a vulnerability made its way through our trusted software supply chain somehow. He's going to do a bad thing. We're going to show some of the awesome post-mortem and incident response capabilities of Sysdig Secure to be able to do some forensics around what exactly happened. And then we're going to merge a pull request that uses Terraform and the Sysdig provider to apply a new rule to our cluster that would prevent this from happening in the future.
Oh, this sounds really cool.
Yeah, and again, using the basis of Falco for the the behavioral aspect there, and it's again it's an exercise where we're utilizing things like some tools for vulnerability scanning, that are tied into our overall platform, but also like open source components. I'm just really we've had a real good time putting this demo together because we put ourselves in the shoes of folks that are doing GitOps and DevOps and be able to say this is actually something that's useful that you can use.
Yeah, that's rad. I love demos that do two things that show you where the rubber meets the road, where you can really just truly see exactly how this is going to impact you. Like if I'm sitting in my desk at the office and something unexpected happens, like I always say there's no such thing as safe software. How do I respond to that, and what does that story look like? And being able to see that is so powerful. This sounds rad. So where can I go to sign up for this or to follow along?
So we have it on our sysdig.com resources, and let me just use I'm new to this. So it's on the sysdig.com resources webinars page, and you can see there our top 5 considerations. Again, it's on the 30th. If you sign up now, I'll give you a hug if we're able to do that at KubeCon. So I'm already purposely saying that I will give you a hug. Stephen won't. So anyway, no, but seriously, just sign up for this, and it's definitely going to be super useful as Stephen and I talked about.
Okay. Are you going to be presenting this like moving forward? It looks like there's a couple of webinars coming up. Is this all you guys, or are these different things?
No, it's just, these are different things we can talk about after. We're just doing this pipeline, but in terms of going forward, we just had such a great time. We know how useful this content is. We'd love to do this again at some point. So we're just trying to figure out the mechanism for doing that. We may even do a call for papers for KubeCon because we feel that this is that substantial.
Yeah, I agree.
We're going to buy a van. We're buying a van and we're driving around the country with a TV in the back to give demos all over the country. So, brace yourself.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Stephen, I know you've got a busy day, and I don't want to keep you too much, but thank you for joining, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the webinar.
Thank you very much. It was nice to meet you virtually. Have a good day.
All right. Bye, Stephen.
Have a good weekend, Stephen.
Okay, and then y'all got to help me out here. It looks like there's people in the Slack who are saying there's a cursor on the screen. I believe I moved it, but if somebody who's watching POP maybe on your end or anybody in the chat can let me know if the cursor is still there. Okay, Facade says it looks good.
All right, thanks. Didn't even see it.
Awesome. I think it was just for folks who are watching the stream. I think on my MacBook, which is over here to my left, I had the cursor like on the middle of the screen share.
I'm getting used to this whole streaming thing. A lot of my show is pretty much pre-canned, right? So I can kind of edit the elements. This is so cool. I'm loving, like, even when you first had the conversation about, can I go behind the scenes with you, Nóva, on this one? You had this completely planned down to, like, you got me into OBS and all this other fun stuff. And you really have this down to a science. So kudos for you on this one. This is a lot of fun.
Well, I certainly can't take all the credit for this. And I'll even go a step further behind the scenes and share with you here, Pop. One of the reasons that I especially love the setns name, not only is it cool because it refers to like potential privilege escalation in a container, but if you actually read the man page for it, it's basically taking one thing and moving it into a new namespace. And that to me was kind of funny because I did a ton of live streaming when I was at Heptio VMware with TGIK, which Duffy, who's joining us today, is going to be doing his TGIK later today. And this is taking a lot of what I learned from Joe and from Duffy and from other folks online and applying it to security and bringing in a guest, which is kind of a new thing that I haven't done before. So this is like the first time I'm actually bringing someone in while still doing a live stream, which is exciting. And it looks like we have somebody saying clever, and Maddie says, it looks so great. Good job. Thank you all. I want to get better at the background here. Like Pops looked pretty legit. how he had his OBS all set up. Anyway, what do we have next year on our agenda?
We can skip me. We already did me. So
No, I love talking about you.
enough about me.
Okay, Pop, I gotta ask. Well, more importantly, I think this is worth sharing. Can you tell us what it was like joining Sysdig for you, and how you ended up here, and how you and I are even ended up talking and having this conversation?
Sure. I started Sysdig. I was at a financial software company, which I've talked to you about, and then I was at HPE for a little bit, and I just found myself gravitating towards cloud native paradigms, like pretty much all the things that like 12-factor applications and the such. And so once I saw the containers and like schedulers at the time, and I was like, okay, this is amazing. I really want to be in this world. And so a recruiter called me, and he's like, this is an opportunity. And I'm like, telemetry company, I don't know if I want to do that. But he's like, okay, this is for containers. And so what I did was I signed up for Sysdig and I installed it. I'm like, right out of the box, I was seeing what's going on with the containers, and I really was like, this is an amazing technology. And then I met Loris, and my interview was me smiling literally for an hour talking to him, because we had like a an issue of spanning trees on one of my, because I used to be a director of IT for 10 years before I was in sales. And yeah. And so being able to like find a spanning tree issue on one of the switches, we used Wireshark or TCP dump. And so he saved my life on like a couple of weeks after 9/11, actually. That's how much it, we were back trying to get back to business, and we were having issues. And we found out it was a switch that was causing the issue. Somebody put like an old old switch that like links this hub into, and was causing issues. And so I thanked him for that, and I was like, you're a legend, and even if I don't get the job, this is an honor. And so that's why I'm at Sysdig, and I've been here for 4 years, and I love this company, and I'd do anything for it.
Yeah, that's crazy. You mentioned that you were a director of IT and you had a spanning tree issue. So once upon a time,
I talk the talk, but I walk the walk, people.
Yeah. Once upon a time, I my first IT job, I was a CCNA, and I'm not gonna lie. And you can, if you're looking at the chat, you can see Holden just put a heart and wrote Wireshark. I'm not gonna lie. When I heard that Loris was basically the guy who wrote Wireshark, I kind of like went, oh, whoa, like you've been doing this for a long time. And the more I started to explore Falco and Sysdig and the driver work that we've done and the work in the kernel, the more I was like, oh shit, these guys are doing really, really cool stuff over at Sysdig. And so anyway, I had that same level of admiration and nostalgia when I joined. Oh, and it looks like Dan from New York says he's not you, Dan from New York.
That's me. I'm a CCNA
that is
too.
You.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was Dan. Where does L work? I forget the name of the company off the top of my head, but I thought it was a different Dan. CCNAs represent. Yeah, RIP 2, baby. Cool. So let's see what we have next. Rooney. So that's the Nóva and POP are networking nerds and ended up at Sysdig spiel.
Well, okay, but what about you? Like, how did you end up at Sysdig, Nóva?
You know how I ended up here. Look at his face right now. You know exactly how I ended up here.
I just followed you around like a puppy dog, like every single conference. I'm like, please join us.
Yeah, I mean so it was after I had left my last gig, and I was like, I need a break. I had been working pretty much since I was a CNA nonstop. I mean, like maybe a long weekend here or there, or like I snuck in some vacation days while I was overseas or something, but I hadn't really like stopped and just chilled for several months, and that's what I was able to do last summer. And I started going to conferences again, and I remember you, like, I still will sometimes, like, I'll get down in the dumps and I'll go look at your original, like, DM to me that's like, Nóva, I know you're looking for a job, let me talk to you, we want you at Sysdig, you would love it here. And like, fast forward, this was last year, and we're almost coming up on my 1 year, believe it or not.
Wow.
I know. Last August was when I joined Sysdig. So, I mean, getting closer, which means, well, I'm gonna knock on wood, but if you follow the history of my career, 1 year is a very important part of the startup life cycle for me. Anyway, yeah, I met you at KubeCon. You messaged me, got me to talk to Loris, sat down with Loris at KubeCon, and yeah, next thing I know, I'm interviewed in San Francisco and signing an offer letter, and here we are, hacking on the kernel. And
I'll let you behind the curtain too about on that one. Loris and I just made a pact. We're like, we want whatever we needed to do to get you here. And again, it was, and even, you know, we talking like John Martin, who's one of our amazing, you know, he's basically one of VP of product. He's a phenomenal dude. So shout out to John. We want to make a concerted effort, and Suresh, our CEO as well. And again, it's paid dividends for us. So it's been amazing.
This all I needed to hear was, hi, we write C and C++, and we're a security tool, and we're doing things nobody else can do. And I was like, all right, where do I sign? Clearly, this is going to be my next career move. But yeah, I'm
beyond
jazzed.
that, it's like I get to work with like a friend. You're a friend of mine, and you know, so it's just like when we're doing conferences, and I'm still can't wait till someday we can actually do a talk together, because we've done it for customers and it's been awesome because we can play off each other pretty well. So I can't wait to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of doing a talk right now, but we're not in person. You and I in person. Yeah. That's where the magic happens. We have fun together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jeepers, Pop. It's already 23 minutes in, so I'm gonna skip on to the next one here. Okay. So do you have this pulled up on your end? It's
I do. Yeah. So I can talk about that. So the thing we just worked out with Steven, the pipe, I actually demonstrate that. So there's 2 levels of runtime. So it's really amazing. So we're actually doing image scanning and using an image controller to basically approve or disapprove an image from being deployed using the emission controller and OPA as the method. So we're doing that, and it's awesome. And being able to, like, you know, have the team, like Alvaro is one of our you know, developers, and Mateo and the Spanish team is amazing. And so being able to like have them work this, you know, they wrote a blog on it. It's going to be super useful for everybody if you know, take a look, and you know, it's going to be there's going to be a link there. Great blog post on how to implement that.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got the blog pulled up here. So it's Sysdig's OPA image scanner combined Sysdig Secure. So is this something that I could go and download in open source right now?
So this, I believe, is using the commercial tool Sysdig Secure. So you'll you know, because it's tapping into those functions. But the admission controller, we have a previous one that you can integrate with. And again, you know, Kaiser wrote that as well. So I just read the article for more. Yeah.
Yeah. Admissions controllers, for folks at home who are just now joining, are a really, really cool piece of the Kubernetes stack. I feel like a lot of people kind of bypass and don't really take full advantage of, which basically it's a way for you to integrate an arbitrary piece of software that can either reject or accept mutations to your API server. So if you do anything in Kubernetes, you could potentially run it through an admissions controller, and that admissions controller it's going to let you know if you should admit the change or not, right? It's either going to say, yeah, welcome to the party, we're going to save this and persist it, and Kubernetes will go do its magic. Or we're going to say, no, this is invalid, and hopefully we give you a good reason why, and we reject that request. So that's cool to see that we're using OPA and admissions controllers, which are both, I would put those in like the prevention bucket. Like you and I have talked about prevention and detection a lot, but I feel like this is a good example of preventative action from preventing something unwanted from happening to your Kubernetes cluster. Whereas, like Steven was saying earlier, Falco is more of a runtime, like that set of checks and balances where you have both prevention and detection running in Kubernetes.
And the cool thing is you can permit or not permit things at runtime as well with this admission controller. Again, this is where Sysdig plays super well, where we're taking open source tools and kind of making them easily accessible to somebody who wants to, you know, utilize this in our platform. So things like Prometheus, like we're doing, things like you know, vulnerability scanning, you know, tools, and using that in a way that you don't have to cobble together those tools, multiple tools. You have a seamless kind of secure DevOps platform to be able to do that.
Nice. This is sick. Cool. So next up we have some stuff going on with Sysdig that's really cool, especially to folks who are using cloud providers and working in the enterprise. The first one we have here, and I feel like I intentionally almost left this one a little bit vague because there's just so much to talk about here, and I'm trying to get more folks, both from the IBM side and from the Sysdig side, to join in, kind of like Steven from Booz Allen did earlier, and just give us a little update on one of the future episodes. But basically, and Pop, keep me honest here, but IBM just announced this really rad MCM integration where Sysdig tooling is basically going to become sort of how CloudWatch is to AWS, but for IBM Cloud.
So that's the second part, which is the platform metric. So we've been doing telemetry for IKS, which is the Kubernetes deployment for a while now. So we are the kind of de facto telemetry product for any cluster that you spin up and even services within the IBM Cloud. And so with this is the integration to multi-cloud manager, which is they're using the control plane being OpenShift over multi-cloud, and there's various kind of permeations, and I'm not doing it full justice. We have an awesome product manager who can definitely talk maybe in a future episode of setns to give you more detail on it. It's very, very cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I the more I hear about this and the more research I do, the more I realize that Sysdig is becoming more and more a core component of the IBM stack, and that's exciting to see us being used in production all over the IBM world.
Not only for telemetry, but also security now, and they're using components of that. So it's with the OpenShift, we've always had a very, very integrated, which we'll talk about. We just run one of the North American award for a partner of the year for public sector, which is for federal, and it's just kudos to us and our relationships with all of the ecosystem. We try to play with everybody to make sure that we're in line with their offerings as well.
That's awesome. That's so rad. Yeah, we and this is we're giving away all of our secret sauce here right now, but myself and the other Falco maintainers were just talking in the maintainers channel about extending an invitation to a guy who's been really active in the Falco community named Spencer. He joins the weekly calls every Wednesday morning to be another Falco maintainer. So it's really cool to see how Sysdig and IBM are doubling down on open source and getting involved with telemetry, and in the case of Falco with security. So very exciting. And yeah, I'm totally gonna go try to track down Eric and bug him about getting involved. So let's see here. The next one we have. Okay, I saw this in our internal notes and I had to share it. Mostly because this was the old team I used to work for. Heptio later turned into working very closely together with the secure Tanzu service mesh. So exciting to see Sysdig and VMware coming together and running security tooling with their service mesh. And if you want to find out more, you can find this blog here, which was written also by Eric, who we were just talking about. And you can come through and you can actually see how we're able to extend the Tanzu service mesh with Sysdig Secure, and you're able to see exactly how this is going to look and feel to mitigate risk-based security with VMware in a SEC service mesh, which is super exciting. And you can see scrolling down, there's a couple of use cases here. We have threat detection. It talks about how you could run a terminal shell in a container, searching for private keys, MITRE attacks, so on and so forth. And here's where you can see where the rubber meets the road and actually get a feeling of what it would look like if you were running Sysdig Secure inside of VMware Tanzu. So I'm going to write this one down as an idea for a follow-up. I would love to get a demo of this so we can actually see and maybe get folks on from their end, see if we can't bug some people on their end to join us.
Only we knew some people from Tanzu.
I know. I wonder where we could find those people. Sorry, just writing this down.
Calling in some favors.
Yeah, well, this is the service mesh, though, right? So this isn't the... Duffy just laughed. Duffy is here in the live chat. But this is just the service mesh, though, which is, I think, a subcomponent of the broader Tanzu umbrella. But again, I would love to get domain knowledge experts from both sides together. So, I mean, because I want to find out more. I have some questions, so I would love to learn more about this. But if you want to dig into it, jump in here. and you can see more. Again, there's links in the HackMD, and I will drop this in the chat one time, or for the second time for folks at home to join, if you don't already have it pulled up. And Duffy says TSM is pretty neat. Duffy, you should join setns and talk to us more about Tanzu Service Mesh sometime. I know you have TGIK here starting in what, an hour and a half?
Maybe we can cross the streams.
Should we cross? I don't think we're supposed to cross the streams.
We're not supposed to cross the streams?
We should totally cross the streams. Duffy, do you want to cross the streams? And while we're here, I don't know if you can see this on your end, Pop, but I'm actually about to pull up VMware TGIK. We're going to do a shameless plug for Duffy really quick. So here's the GitHub repo for TGIK, which is his VMware's version of what we're doing right now. That starts in an hour and a half. So if you want to join, that's actually a picture I took on Mount Rainier. If you want to join, you can find out more here on the GitHub repo, which I'm going to drop in our HackMD. And Duffy reminded us you can go in and you can do tgik.io/live. So I'll add both of those links here. tgik.io/live, and I'll try to clean those up afterwards. And I guess while we're here and we're adding links, Pop, have you been to the GitHub repo yet?
I have not. Which GitHub repo? Oh, ours. I have not. Actually, I have. I think I put an issue up, but in my typical fashion, I just put an issue and then I ran away.
Oh, got it. Yeah. I'm gonna cut off your face again, and github.com/setns/live. There's a link at the top of the document. If you or anyone else has ideas for future episodes, it looks like we have a couple of ones here. Episode idea: AppArmor, SecComp, and Cloud Native Security. Ooh, that one sounds fun. That might be a deeper dive into some security stuff that we could totally do. But yeah, if you have ideas or if there's anything you want to see or if there's questions, this is the place to ask. So feel free to join here for setns or check out the VMware Tanzu one for, or VMware TGIK one for TGIK. Duffy says, what does Duffy say? Also, something we do is TGIK/notes. Y'all should make a setns.live/notes. Yeah, we totally should. We have setns.live. We have the domain. We're still working on the website. So if folks want to get involved with like imagery or building out the website or figuring out how to nest the Twitch stream, Pop, don't get mad at me, but I was just going to use an iframe to nest the Twitch stream. But yeah, I think we could do some fun stuff with DNS and forwarding.
If anybody comes up with an animated GIF of somebody cutting off my head, because I think Nova's done that, told me she wanted to cut off my head 40 times, so you guys are all witness. So if anyone makes that GIF, I'll give you a hug at the next KubeCon when we're able.
I also bet we can get some cool Falco swag, probably both from the CNCF and from Sysdig. We could start like giving stuff away here on setns as well.
Absolutely.
Nice. I have like my notepad here. Well, really, I don't know if you can see this, Pop. Really, the reason I have this stack of papers is so I can go like this. I'm not really writing anything on the paper. I'm just like drawing happy faces and stuff when I pretend to. Yeah. Okay, so that's TGIK. That's VMware, Tanzu, Service Mesh with Sysdig Secure. And of course, you can go and you can check out TGIK Live, which starts in an hour and a half. Okay, so this next one is kind of exciting. And Pop, if you want to take this one to start, go for it. Promcat.io.
Again, our team's just nailing it, and it's basically like a resource catalog for enterprise monitoring. So you have examples, Prometheus, forwarders or integrations that work right out of the box. For various tools. There's things for specific to the Kubernetes. There's things specific applications, and this is being updated super frequently. You can see and you can sort by specific categories that are necessary. You can contribute. That's pretty much the gist of it. Again, shout out to Benser, Jorge, fantastic, one of our tech marketing team for executing on this. This is just makes people super useful. There's a blog post about it as well, which we'll share, I think.
Okay. Yeah, if there's a blog, we could totally add it to the docs here, which I will PR this document up to the repo, so that we sort of have like an index of everything we talked about with links, so that if people find the YouTube video or whatever afterwards, they can kind of dig into it from there. But yeah, the Promcat.
The whole things with Sysdig is we're just, and I'm not trying to pitch here, but I am. It's basically like we're trying to ease the use of developers being able to like quickly integrate whatever things they need to do. Because if you find that there's sometimes there's unproven node exporters, and they cause issues. They might cause more grief, and you may use more resources than are necessary. And so we're trying to provide almost like a curated repository for those types of things. So I just put the link in chat, and I'll also add it to the HackMD. I'm sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're good. While you were talking, I added it for you.
You're the best.
Thanks. So help me understand what these integrations are with Promcat. So these are just taking known open source and cloud services and just pushing them to Prometheus. So these are the actual integration pieces that connect the service to a Prometheus backend.
And in some ways, we're enhancing them. So basically, the way that it was explained to me, and again, having Jorge or his team on here would be amazing to give you more detail, but it's basically a curated experience. So, as you see right now, hey, I need a new node exporter or a GPU exporter, and I need to get those metrics in. So what do? We go to Google, we do our search, we find it, and it might be 6-7 years old, hasn't been updated. And so we're taking the time to curate that experience and allowing folks to update it. So that's kind of the gist of doing, because we want to be, and we are, an enterprise kind of Prometheus integration with Sysdig in our monitoring tools and our security tools as well, in terms of like visualizing what you're seeing from a security perspective. So and the things we're doing with PromQL as well. So we're just making that, those things easier for and accessible for developers to be able to integrate.
Awesome. This is so cool. It's really cool to see curation like this. And this has been like kind of a hot topic recently with other services in the open source world that are starting to share integrations such as this, but for other tools. It's really nice to see like a core set of integrations that have kind of that extra attention to detail, to really give it that extra polish that you're looking for if you're looking at running this in production or taking this to the enterprise level. So being able to offer integrations into Prometheus like this that have kind of made it through the gauntlet of rigorous eyes on top of it is exciting, because that curated list is going to be a lot more powerful and substantial than, like you said, Pop, finding something that maybe it's a little older or hasn't been updated or was built for one use case and trying to shoehorn it into a different use case. So this is really cool stuff to see with Prometheus. And correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe I just don't know, but I don't really think there's other Prometheus integrations being amalgamated like this anywhere else. Not that I've seen anyway.
Not in the way we're doing it.
That's awesome. Okay,
very similar to what we're doing with our security hub as well, where Falco rules being curated, and it's very similar.
Okay, the security hub it's an exciting part of the Falco project, and with the security hub, same kind of thing. It's a curated list, and the Falco community has an entire process baked around how you would contribute a rule, who's in charge of reviewing the rule before it gets added, and offering what we consider support for a lot of these rules. Looks like Duffy just said something. What did Duffy say?
You beat me to the punch. You want take it?
Okay. Hey, there is another neat thing that Maya just announced that might appeal to this audience. You want me to pull it up? Duffy's going to add it to the notes. Security peeps. This is to recruit. Oh yeah, somebody just shared this with me. What my team is building. Let us know what you need and help us with COVID-19 relief efforts. Security auditors, DevSecOps folks, CISOs, bug bounty researchers, GitHub researchers looking to learn from you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. So it's just
very cool.
It's a research effort that's helping with COVID. That's really beautiful right now. Honestly, the world needs more help with things like this. Like, this is an interesting situation to be in. But yeah, it's really cool to see open source coming together and partnering with a lot
I'll
of this.
I'll break it on your show. Maya's going to be a future guest on the podcast. I'm excited to talk to her.
Oh, nice. Any more, like, do we know when, or I don't even know, like, do you share that? Do you have a calendar anywhere?
Every Wednesday and every bi-weekly Friday, there's going to be I do a wellness episode, which I did this week, which has changed every other week, but I try to drop on every Wednesday.
Okay, that's really cool. And you added the link. I'm going to actually pull it up. I'm going to cut off your head because that's what I do. And I'm going to pull up your podcast.
Okay.
So up at the top. So if you go to the podcast, I do love your new logo. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was actually, honestly, that was a bad picture, and I just loved it so much. Like that was me clicking the button, like going like this to click the button because I hadn't figured out that I could control my camera with my phone.
Yeah.
Happy mistakes, right?
Yeah. I mean, it looks great. Those candid shots are the best. Like, I'm kind of hoping somebody grabs like a photo of me and you here on setns.live, just because like they really do make for the best like in the moment photos for presenting what's actually going on here. So that pretty much wraps up, I think, kind of the updates that we wanted to go through this week with Prometheus Catalog. Duffy added his to the end here. Duffy says Pop showing off his home lab in the back. Pop, you want to tell us about your lab you got going on there?
You notice it's blurred right now. It's just I'm trying because the YouTubers tell me I need to blur my background and me be in the foreground because whatever. But no, it's how kind of I learned microservices is through like home theater stuff, and let's leave it at home theater.
Yeah.
And basically I'm using Synology NASs and then just a bunch of NUCs, and that's how I learned Kubernetes as well, through kind of just experimenting, reading stuff that you put out, Duffy put out, with Joe Beta and Kelsey, right? And so basically I'm just running things, and I have the NUCs on Pixie Boot, so if I need to, I just buy a new NUC and I can just slap it in there, and it gets all the prerequisite stuff in there, but all of the actual data is stored on the NASs.
Nice.
So, and I have redundancy there.
That's really
cool.
And
then I have UPSs as well and old servers.
Wow. I thought, so my networking setup's getting more and more elaborate, and I have a Raspberry Pi cluster I'm building, but I'm thinking about buying a handful of NUCs and then actually building out a cluster, because I really I feel, okay, this is like my own personal crazy goal, but I feel like the world could really benefit from not only how do I install Kubernetes on bare metal and how do I make that a seamless experience, but then let's go a step further and how do I secure that as well. And I know that's a lot, but time is what I have right now, stuck here at the house. So I might order up some NUCs. So I might have to get what kind you have there.
So I have two, and somebody asked the question, Intel NUCs. Yeah, so I have the Intel 5 versions like a year ago, and the reason why I bought those is the Intel 7 ones. The fan was ridiculously loud; it would just kick in all the time for some reason.
So wait, which ones do you have? I'm gonna write this down.
I don't have the exact models, but it's the one with the Intel 5, the highest end Intel 5, and then the Gigabyte Byte. And this is a shout out to Evan Hoffman. He's a cool dude from works at Bloomberg. And he's like, you got to take a look at these boxes. They're fantastic. Small form factor. You can put NVMe hard drives in them. Really cool stuff.
Nice. If you happen to come up with a link or you find it in the future and want to add it, it looks like Facade is also wondering. And if I get the same kind as you, that means I have an excuse to call you and be like, Pop, fix my Kubernetes, and help me set up the NUCs here at the house.
One of the things I'll totally recommend is there's a secure boot. It turns on and off like at nauseum because it's actually done like as a patch. So that kills me because basically I do like I put on these boxes, I put VirtualBox, I put Vagrant, and I put Kubernetes and Nomad on there. So just so if I need to, I can HashiCorp Nomad. And the rationale behind it is just if I need to spin something up quickly. If I need to do something in VMware, I have two big servers that I could spin up as well. So shout out to our friends at Tanzu. I really want to play with the ESX7, hook a brother up. Thank you.
Awesome. We can also make it a point to join Duffy's stream later and ask for ESX7 because that sounds exciting. I'd love to check it out, especially with the stuff that they're doing with Tanzu and Kubernetes. Yeah, rad. Let's see what else we have here in our agenda. We have, I was thinking we want to keep the shows to around an hour. And in the future, if like I'm doing one of these by myself, I might go over if I'm like in the middle of demoing something or hacking on something. But I think short and sweet is an hour is about the right amount of time. I don't know. What's your experience with timing with the Popcast, Pop?
So I've went from 30 minutes to like an hour 7 with Augustus, and time flies when you're having fun, right? And so we just went on and I do not want to edit that. I want to put that whole thing in there. What I've started to add now is timestamps. So if you don't want to watch the hour, you can basically just go in. We're going to go back and do all of them. I think I did the Kelsey one, this one. I think I was too drunk to do the one with Duffy because old fashions. But
Wait, you and Duffy did a podcast with old fashions?
Yeah, so we did old fashions and startups. That was our theme. It was a great one.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me of when the three of us hung out here in San Francisco.
Yep.
Good times.
Fun times.
Great oldies. Good times and great oldies. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so if I could maybe get a couple of minutes of your time, Pop, I want to talk to you about this crazy idea I had.
Sure. Talk to me.
Okay, so I'm still working on a blog, and I'm going to kind of talk through this because it's still up in my head. And honestly, usually in the past, traveling around and going to conferences and actually just talking to people and sharing my thoughts and talking through my ideas with just folks in the community was a lot of my inspiration, a lot of my knowledge came out of those conversations. And now I'm sitting around at home just like talking to Dr. Tygums here on the shelf. So I haven't really gotten that same one-on-one experience. So I'm really hoping I can get like some nostalgia here and try to talk you through this crazy idea I have with running Falco and Kubernetes and what I think is I would consider the safe/right way to do this. Okay, so obviously, Pop, I love Kubernetes, right?
You're the reason I love Kubernetes. One of the reasons.
It really is a good solution, and it really did bring the industry together and offer a standardized way of interfacing with cloud, which cloud has, over the past 10 years, completely revolutionized this industry that we're all working in. But this might be one of the craziest things I ever say. I don't think we should run Falco on Kubernetes. And the reason for that is because, as like even Steven on the call earlier had mentioned, Falco exists as a runtime security tool that gives you deep visibility and deep alerting when something unexpected happens. And the thought here is kind of like keeping your security tooling and your last line of defense separated from the thing that you cherish that you're trying to potentially watch and secure. In other words, if something happened in Kubernetes that prevented Falco from running in Kubernetes, what's left after that? So, I don't know. Have you? What are your thoughts on this, Pop? Do you have any thoughts so far?
My take on it is it should be whatever the easiest function to get this deployed, right? For a customer or a prospect, or anybody wanting to kind of utilize Falco. So if it's an easy to function system MD, cool, deploy, script or whatever. If it's a deployment that is using a daemon set, great. If it's just, a container that runs on the host, I think all of them are viable options. And so I couldn't, again, I'm going to give you everybody a wishy-washy answer on that response to that. I'm just going to say whatever fits the environment.
Well, so this goes down to this, what I consider a pretty old debate between accessibility and security, right? Like on one hand, you want to make this easy for you don't want to create this experience where you have to read a short novel and dedicate, the better half of a month of your time into setting up some open source software. That's just going to prevent adoption just by inherently, right? On the other hand, we want to make sure that we're encouraging best practices and that we're not encouraging folks to run something in a way that could potentially hurt them downstream. So I think it's finding that right balance between making it easy to adopt, easy to use, and while still creating a secure implementation. So my thought at a solution for this balance would be ultimately to have Falco, which Falco is pretty much composed of two parts, and it's a big part of the Sysdig secure platform, which is the kernel side of things, which is the lowest element, which is either a BPF probe or a kernel module. And then the user space program that consumes the stream of data coming from that underlying driver. So my thought here would be to have the user space program managed with systemd with just a clean output that you could potentially install this on the host using Kubernetes or using, like, let's say a daemon set or a Helm chart or something. But ultimately, the user space process itself would be a host level process and being watched with systemd. And this is kind of an interesting paradigm because you see this with CNI and you see this with the Kubernetes components themselves. Duffy has a strong +1. And it also strongly prevents this idea that we want our security tooling to be scheduled and monitored and effectively ran by the thing we're trying to protect, by the thing we're trying to monitor. So I think in the name of accessibility, it should be that 5 minutes or less experience. But at the end of the day, I think what you should get is a Linux level installation of Falco, and then we just make it very easy to consume Falco alerts and events from Kubernetes so that we can take advantage of the wonderful Kubernetes API and all of the functionality that you get with Kubernetes as well. Let's see. It looks like Duffy.
Yeah,
go for it.
Okay. So he's just saying using a daemon set that acts as an installer is a decent strategy there as well. Absolutely agree there.
Yeah. I mean, so that's how like CNI works, and like if you look at a lot of the CNI providers, they basically do remote command injection. So like I'm a little uneasy about, and I'm sorry, my neighbor is deciding to mow the grass right now for everyone at home. That's really annoying. But yeah,
it's okay.
It's basically remote command injection, and it's a little bit concerning, but it does solve that accessibility use case. So I think honestly, there's clearly a need for like seeing. I'm gonna go yell at this guy. I'm gonna be right back. Pop, you want to let us know about the next podcast until I get back?
Yes. So next week we have Adam Clater from Red Hat. He is doing a session on open source in the federal government, and we also talk about this long-standing debate we've had on Twitter. I'll put the link to his Twitter about chicken sandwiches. We're going to discuss chicken sandwiches. So
chicken sandwiches?
Yes, and just the Popeyes versus others, and it's a fun conversation. Great guy, and I think is one of the people that is playing like a jazz trumpet in the background as well. So kind of bringing us back to the mower and the sax trumpet. So you might hear a little sax or saxophone being played.
Nice. That's really awesome. But yeah, sorry about that. That was just I couldn't even hear my own thoughts with that mower was going on. But yeah, I think having the accessibility use case solved while still running Falco on the host to me makes a lot of sense. And that's all I was trying to say here.
And that's the beauty of open source, and beauty of what we're doing right now, right? It's like literally like you're talking through these scenarios, and smart teams will kind of look at that and say, okay, there is an issue, let's talk about it, and then having other people contribute to it. I mean, that's the core of it. You think about the podcast I had with Kelsey, or think about what I talked about with Augustus. That's the beauty of this community, the stuff that we're doing right here.
Yeah, I mean, it's connecting with people, it's talking with people, and really, like, if you build everything in a silo, and I hate to say it, but this is like the diversity problem, like re-implemented, but in the form of like sectioning off who the folks you're talking to, and why open source really is so important. If you're not getting different opinions and other people from the ecosystem contributing to your thought process and contributing to your design, there's a high likelihood that a lot of that's going to be built in a silo, and you're going to end up with something that kind of only works for you and may not be as well-rounded and as open and as consumable as you would have liked. So yeah, I think one of the things I might start hacking with this weekend, I wrote a tool that allows you to get systemd logs in Kubernetes yesterday. I'm thinking about maybe writing like what I would call a secure vulnerable container, which would basically be like, if we are going to be using Kubernetes, like if our constraint is we have to use the Kubernetes API to deploy something that potentially should or has to run at the Linux level in the case of the kernel module, how do we go about in a safe way managing those extra permissions and those privileges that you would need in order to set that up through the Kubernetes API? In other words, if you are going to do remote command injection, let's at least do it in a well-prescribed, well-rounded way that we're very clear and open about, so that folks understand what they're getting. And the more I look around the Kubernetes ecosystem, the more I just don't really see solid examples of like, hi, we're going to deploy something. It's going to take more privileges than we would have hoped that it needs to install it. But if you're using the Kubernetes API, this is how it's going to need to happen. But here's how we're going to do it in a safe way. And this is, having folks coming together and contributing to that might be something that's worthwhile to have in the cloud native ecosystem. Oh, what do you have here? Is that your NUC?
Yeah. So that's one of the gigabyte ones, but the Intel NUC as well is it's just the 5, not the 7 or the 9. And the other thing too, just shout out to Alex Ellis. His Raspberry Pi cluster blog is phenomenal. If anybody hasn't read it, it's really good. Every one of his articles, he's a monster. Also was a podcast guest.
Okay. Anyway, you could, if you also get a link, if you want to share it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a shorter link because this one is bad. I just did a Google search, so I'll get a better link. I'm sorry, everyone. Just
don't let it happen again, okay? Duffy says, "Are you looking for something that builds your PSP?" Broken link is what Lagoob says. I think Pop's gonna be adding a different link.
Yep.
Cool. So I'm actually, after talking to you, and like I said, I've been working on a blog. I think I'm going to push a blog that captures my thinking that as an open source project, the end goal of having Falco running is for the user space program to be watched with systemd in the same way that CNI, in the same way that Kubernetes components are, and then just give a few examples of like, now that Falco is running at the systemd level, how do we consume Falco? And the more I think about that relationship, the more all of a sudden I realize that this is actually a pretty solid design pattern. One of the things I was thinking about is I started doing research on Unix domain sockets. You're allowed to pass a file descriptor over a Unix domain socket, and the server is just the entity that would basically push that out to the client, basically the same way that emissions controllers work in Kubernetes. And this is how other Linux level tooling have used Unix domain sockets in a secure way to access things they otherwise would not have privileges to. And so that solves the problem of how do I communicate from the pod to the underlying host, which if you look at the communication between the kubelet API server and like the control plane, which is also running in Kubernetes as pods, that communication is historically pretty, I would say, challenging to get that right. And it's interesting to see how they're breaking that boundary of the container level in order to make this happen. So I really think that we're at a point now in Kubernetes where we can start to explore this relationship between going from the underlying system back to the Kubernetes cluster itself. So that's my spiel. That's my rant. That's what I wanted to talk about. So, Pop said, in response to systemd. I see.
Yeah, so basically, like Duffy had said, are you looking for something that builds you PSP when you were talking? And I thought he meant just this. He's asking in the context of systemd, the requirement that you'd made.
Awesome. I see. Totes. All right.
And I was just pointing out that Sysdig has PSP Advisor as part of our tool. It's pretty cool. So I just put the link there.
What is PSP Advisor? Is that just like a pod security policy implementation that we offer?
No, it's basically looks at the requirements of your pod spec and creates least privilege for your application, so you can actually use that to test, and you can test it against other pod secure, like other pods and namespaces, so you can see if it simulate what happens if you do it. So think about it. What do you have to do now? You put the PSP in place, you run your application, then it fails, versus, okay, I can run it within Sysdig and get kind of a simulation and then figure out if my PSP policy will work or not. Very cool
that's
stuff.
really cool. That's really cool.
Shout out to Kaize.
Yeah, big shout out to Kaize. He's really, really clever. And so Duffy says another interesting project out there is Docker's L. What is this? Docker Slim. Oh, it's dockersl.im. Yeah, we have a Slim Falco image as well, and I was that's honestly, looking at the Slim Falco image was kind of what got me on that path of maybe having Falco running in a container makes sense, but still everything that goes underneath Falco should be happening in the at the Linux layer. Spanish team for life. Something like PSP advisor for network policies would be a great idea. Yeah, that sounds really cool.
And I'm saying, look out, we have some things we're working on.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, I mean, we're at the hour here, so I think maybe we should wrap up.
Thank you, Nóva, for having me on. Excited. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Pop. Thanks for joining Duffy and everyone else. Usually the goodbyes take like about a minute or two because folks at home like are behind us, so I usually stay on for maybe 1 or 2 minutes after I say that we're saying goodbye, so that if folks have any last minute questions or comments, they can add them to the stream and then we'll get them afterwards. And look, you can see now chat's coming in and people are saying goodbye. Strong says thanks. More thanks. Good to see you, Maddie. Good to see you, Lagoob. Captain Golo. Facade. Pop, obviously, I miss you. I wish I could hang out with you in real space sometime
I miss
soon.
you too, Nóva. This has been fun. We got reunited. I love you to death, and you know that.
Yeah, I love you too. And thanks for joining me today and welcoming the new setns live stream to the Sysdig family. It means a lot coming from you. In my mind, you're the original Sysdigger that I met that welcomed me to the company. So thanks again. Cool. All right, and thanks for joining, everyone. And we'll be here. If you need us or if you have any questions, feel free to get involved, reach out to me, reach out to Pop, join the Slack, join the GitHub, and we'll see everyone at the next one. Bye. Take care.